Hi, Right Riders. Cruz here. Thank you so much for joining me. In this video, we are going to be looking at the IELTS on computer, and specifically, we're going to the general training writing test. So we are going to start with the sample general training writing part one, and we will take the online practice test just to see what the experience is like online. And if you go to this site, it asks you to confirm details, but you can simply click my details are correct and it will take you to the test. They do break it up in a 1 hour time frame, and it's broken up into the two parts, just to let you know. And so I know that the first part is typically 20 minutes and the second part is 40 minutes. So I'm going to make sure that I work on this task for just 20 minutes. Now I'm going to go ahead and click Start Test. Please keep in mind, Right Writers, that this is information that I have not seen, so we're looking at it for the first time. Again, it says you should spend about 20 minutes on this part, write at least 150 words. And the timer has already begun, so we're already started here. Um, Okay, so it says you live in a room in college which you share with another student. However, there are many problems with this arrangement, and you find it very difficult to work. Write a letter to the accommodation officer at the college. In your letter, describe the situation, explain your problems and why it is difficult to work, and then say why it is, say, or rather, what kind of accommodation you would prefer. You do not need to write any addresses, it looks like, and then it says begin your letter as follows: Dear Sir or Madam. So I definitely want to go ahead and do that now. So let me do that before I forget. Um, and normally I prefer a colon, but since it has the comma, I'm going to go with the comma. So basically, let's take a look at the what they're requiring me to do. And so I'm going to kind of put that down below so I can at least have it with me to ensure that I address all of these situations. So describe the situation, explain your problems and why it is difficult to work, and say what kind of accommodation you would prefer. And so let's go ahead and do that. Again, I've got now 58 minutes and 8 seconds remaining, Right Riders. So as soon as this timer says 40, pretty much my time is up and I need to have at least 150 words. Um, so many problems and you find it difficult to work, write a letter to the accommodation officer, describe the situation. Okay, so um, again, one of the reasons may be that you might have problems with a roommate is basically that they are a couple of ideas. They are focused on parties and drinking, um, and maybe gambling rather than school. I could say maybe they're bringing their girlfriend or boyfriend um, to the room. Let's see. Describe the situation, explain your problems, and then so uh, l- arriving um, late at night, cannot sleep. So arriving late at night, disrupting sleep, and maybe texting all night, again disrupting sleep. Other reasons that you might have problems with someone in a college setting, um, and maybe messy. So they're a messy roommate. Um, Difficult to work because of too many distractions. And the accommodation we would prefer, well, is someone with the similar, um, be roomed with someone who is serious about school and focused, um, focused on studying. Write a letter to the accommodation officer at the college. In your letter, describe the situation, explain your problems and why it is difficult to work, and say what kind of accommodation you would prefer. So let's start with describing the situation first, right, writers? So, I think I'm going to almost create a scene, right, writers? So set a scene up on, maybe what the room looks like when you come in. So, dear sir or madam, so it's saying describe the situation first. Um, so describe situation. Okay, so let's do this, right, writers, and we'll start with sort of a library situation. Maybe we just came home from the library. After a long study session at the library, I arrived to my room ready to fall asleep after a long study session at the library, or after a, instead of long, I don't really like long, after a, after an intense study session at the library, I arrived to my room ready to fall asleep because I have an exam the following morning. However, when I enter my place of rest, I find beer bottles on the floor, old pizza in the, or on the dining room table, or on a table. Find beer bottles on the floor, old pizza on my table. And my roommate snoring. Or maybe my roommate snuggled up with his girlfriend. Okay. After an intense study session at the library, I arrived to my room ready to fall asleep because I have an exam the following morning. However, when I enter my place of rest, I find beer bottles on the floor, old pizza on the table, and my roommate fast asleep, my roommate and his girlfriend fast asleep, and my roommate and his girlfriend fast asleep. Did I describe a situation? Yes. And now I'm explaining the problems and why it is difficult to work. Um, Normally, this would not be a problem for me if it was the weekend. But it is a Monday night, but it is a weeknight, and this is a typical day in my rooming arrangement. Okay, right, writers, let me stop here and just sort of see where we are. After an intense study session at the library, I arrive to my room, ready to fall asleep because I have an exam the following morning. However, when I enter my place of rest, I find beer bottles on the floor, old pizza on the table, and my roommate and his girlfriend fast asleep. Normally, this would not be a concern for me if it was the weekend. If it was the weekend, I'm going to keep it with if it was the weekend. Had it normally, this would not be a concern for me had it been the weekend. Had it been the weekend. But it is a weeknight, and this is a typical day in my rooming arrangement. And this is a typical situation in my rooming arrangement. Okay, so I've definitely described the situation. I've explained some of the problems and why, and now I'll get to sort of why this is difficult, why it's difficult to work. Um, Sharing a space with someone who is more focused on partying and drinking. Sharing a space with someone who is more focused on partying and drinking is difficult when you sharing a space with someone who is more focused on partying and drinking is difficult because the values they have are not the same. Is difficult. I'm going to say that instead, right, writers? Sharing a space with someone who is more focused on partying and drinking is difficult because I am more focused, because I am sharing a space with someone who is more focused on partying and drinking rather than studying is challenging. While I understand that the college experience may include lots of social activities, while I understand that the college experience may include lots of social activities, it is difficult um, well, 43 minutes remaining. Right, writers, I've got about 3 minutes left. Um, well, that would be 10 minutes. 60, no, it would be three. I have 3 minutes left, right, writers. Um, okay. You live in a room. Explain your problems, what accommodation you would prefer. Okay. It is difficult to is challenging. It is better to be roommates with someone who shares the same values that you do. Okay, it looks like 2 minutes. After an intense, normally this would not be, but it is weeknight and is a typical sharing a space rather than studying is challenging. It is better to be roommates with someone, to have a roommate who shares the same values that you do. Again, while I do not have an issue with someone who wishes to focus more on social, to focus more on, while again, while I do not have an issue with someone who wishes to focus more on social activities, I simply, again, while I do not Again, I do not have an issue with someone who wishes to focus more on social activities. I simply wish to be in a space with someone who is serious about their learning and does not take their education for granted. Thank you for considering my request. Truly yours, Bruce. Okay, truly yours, right writer. Okay, basically kind of there, right writers. I mean, it looked like I had 39, 40 seconds or something. I hit that 40-minute mark, but it hadn't hit the 39 yet. So, I mean, I just put right writers at the end. Not sure how this would be scored. I have 169 words. So let's take a look again at what we have and feel okay with it, and then again, it's time to move on to the next part 2. Um, but just wanted to, again, create a shorter video for part 1 first and then do a separate one for part 2. Dear Sir or Madam, after an intense study session at the library, I arrived to my room ready to fall asleep because I have an exam the following morning. However, when I enter my place of rest, I find beer bottles on the floor, old pizza on the table, and my roommate and his girlfriend fast asleep. Normally, this would not be a concern for me had it been the weekend. But it is a weeknight, and this is a typical situation in my rooming arrangement. Sharing a space with someone who is more focused on partying and drinking rather than studying is challenging. It is better to have a roommate who shares the same values that you do. Again, I do not have an issue with someone who wishes to focus more on social activities. I simply wish to be in a space with someone who is serious about their learning and does not take their education for granted. Thank you for considering my request. Truly yours, Right Writer. And maybe I should have put thank you for considering my new room request assignment or something to that effect. Um, but I did not do that. So, Right Writers, with that, I leave you with what's here. Again, you know, I call this a little average, maybe slightly above average, but I would call this a pretty average basic letter. I wouldn't call it anything special. I definitely took too much time planning rather than just jumping in and writing the prompt, writing the letter with the prompt in mind. And so, again, be careful of that, right, writers, where you spend more of your time planning and less of your time writing. So, if I definitely had to critique myself, that would have been something I would have done differently. With that said, right, writers, thank you so much. I wish I could get rid of this arrow, but I can't. It's just there and I can't move it anywhere. Maybe if I do that, what happens? I wonder. Nope, it doesn't happen. Nothing happens there. So thank you again, Right Writers, for watching the struggle here with Cruz. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Happy Tuesday to everyone. All right, love you guys. Thank you for subscribing and for sticking it out with Cruz on this one. Take care, Right Writers. Bye bye.